a few moments. So if I can have everybody's attention, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So, thank you, Julie. Good evening. I'm City Secretary Rebecca Huerta. I'd like to introduce our Mayor, Paulette Guajardo. She'll be making a few comments to open up our first community input session. So I will turn it over to Mayor Guajardo.
Okay. Sorry. Good evening. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is very important, as all of you know, and this is very important to you as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't hear from you. Hi, Sylvia. Hi, Julie. Anyhow, I want to reiterate that the council is prioritizing having not only general meetings but also single district meetings. We have 6 more community input sessions that will be conducted, including 5 individual district sessions, with the last session tentatively scheduled for March the 8th of 2022. So we welcome you, we welcome your comments, and we'll go ahead and start the presentation. Or, I'm sorry, you can start.
All right. So this is Mr. Kabi Caputo. He's General Counsel with Bickerstaff, serving as our Redistricting Counsel as well.
Good evening. So I was going to cover real briefly what this is about and why it's happening, and then go into the specifics of what has been designed. So the law requires that every 10 years, anybody who has a single-member district election system compare the census data from the current census to the prior census and determine if the districts are out of population balance. And the way they calculate that is they take the biggest one and the smallest one, and they determine the percentage it's away from the ideal, and they add that together, and that number is called your deviation. If the deviation is greater than 10%, i.e. the biggest one and the smallest one added together are more than 10% out of balance, then you have to redistrict or redraw the boundaries, which is effectively what this is. So we did that analysis, presented that to the council back in late January, and the city's deviation at this time between the 2010 census and the 2020 census on the current election maps is over 37%. So that's more than 10%. That means we have to redraw the boundaries. The process that we've gone through so far, which was mostly yesterday, is we brought from my firm a plan that got everything back into balance, and was sort of a generic plan that we drew with no knowledge of the local Corpus Christi community. And then we spoke with the council about it yesterday and got their feedback, because the council are uniquely positioned to tell us there's a community of interest over here that you're splitting in half and we want to keep them together. Or this neighborhood over here is very cohesive, their kids all go to the same school, we'd like to keep them together. And so based on that, we adjusted some of the lines from yesterday. A couple of principles that the council asked us to do was, for the most part, to use election precincts to move the lines around instead of getting down to the block level data, which is very detailed, but it can result in splitting up neighborhoods real easily. So we're using the election precincts predominantly. Another concept that they discussed was District 2 is largely, and the lines in red here are the current boundaries. District 2 is growing much slower than the rest of the city, in particular, much slower than Districts 4 and 5, but to a lesser degree 3 as well. And so they talked about perhaps increasing the population in 2 within the deviation to make it so that in 10 years' time, maybe it won't be so far behind the other districts that have a lot more potential for growth. So we worked on that yesterday and coming up with that plan. Similarly, they wanted to underpopulate 5 and to a degree 4 and 3 because of their potential for growth. And we did that pretty well. All in all, there's a total of 12.5 precincts that moved, so it's not a huge, gigantic seismic shift in things. And what I thought I would do is just kind of walk through the different election precincts, election districts, I mean, single-member districts, and talk about what changed. So this map over here, and when I'm done, everybody can come up here and look around, and then we'll take some public comments after everybody's kind of had some time to look. So over here in District 1 had to grow. It was too small by about 5,000 people. And to accomplish that, we took a block that's currently, or an election precinct that's currently in District 2, it's number 31 over here, it's actually just south of here, and moved it into District 1. And similarly, we had 1 come down into what used to be 3 out here, districts, what are they looking at here? 24 and 34 went into 1, and 60 over here. So those 3 precincts moved into 1 from 3, and this one moved into 1 from 2. And then here in District 2, because District 2 gave up a little bit of population up here when it lost that precinct, it gained precinct along Ocean Drive and moving south, and picked up 2, 64, 63, 42 from District 4. And then there's a precinct here, 92, which was oddly shaped. Most of it is over here, but there's a little tiny tail of it on this side. And what the council looked at was it made a lot of sense to maybe cut this particular boundary off at Airline Road. And so the part of precinct 92 that's on the north, I guess, west side of Airline Road is now going to be in 2 under this plan. And the rest of 92 will be stay in 4, except for the little tail, which is down here. It made sense to put that into District 2 as well. And then 2 also picked up 90 down here. This is the big map of all the changes, and again, the maps along the way are the individual districts. So this is District 3. As we talked about, District 3 gave up 60, 24, and 34 to District 1. And it gained 119 and 32 from District 5. And that's really all it needed to balance its population out. And District 4 gained 1 block from District 5, or 1 precinct, which is Precinct 17, to preserve a community of interest. And then it gave up those precincts that we just talked about to District 2. So just Precinct 2, 42, 63, 64, 90, and that little part of 92. And then over here in District 5, it gave up precincts 119 and 32 to District 3, and it gave up Precinct 17 to District 4. And that brought District 5 into balance and actually underpopulated it by a little over 1,000 people, so it gives it potential to grow without messing up the deviation too much. So these other tables that are up here, they're the same thing on each side. The blue labeled one is the total population data, demographic data for each of the single member districts for the whole plan, and you see that the deviation is now 5.26%, well within the 10% limit the courts have set. And then this over here is the voting age population for each precinct, so people can see the impact on not just total population, but the impact on the voters, since this is ultimately an election system that we're designing and redesigning. And so that's the changes from what was done. And the purpose of this meeting is for the community to kind of look at this, digest it a little bit, provide comments here. They'll be taken down. I believe the city has set up an email address, which will be given out. And so if you want to sort of think about it and go home and cogitate about it and then send comments, you can do that. All of these maps are on the city's website now. The demographic tables are on the city's website now. And so you can kind of go through them at your leisure by looking at them there. And this little map over here is a new one that we'll get a bigger version of it as we go. But this shows the election precincts with their total population figures in it. So if people wanted to say, well, what if we move this precinct instead of that one? You can look at the total population numbers and see what that would do to the plan. And that's new, just showed up today about 3 o'clock. So we'll get it on the city's website, and we will get that in a bigger format for the meetings that are coming up. And that's really all the prepared comments I had. I thought we'd give 10 or 15 minutes for people to come up and look at the maps, think about it, and then if you want to make comments, you can go to the microphone there. People are already signed up. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll turn it over to Rebecca.
Okay. Okay, we can work on that, Ms. Scott, Dr. Scott. Okay, we do have Tim Dowling. Mr. Dowling, did you want to make are you ready to make comments now? Sir? Okay, sure. Okay, Ms. Rogers, did you want to make comments?
Well, my name's Julie Rogers. I live in District 1 in Uptown. And I'm able to make comments tonight because I'm making general comments for this general session, as the public did not have the privilege of seeing the final draft map Plan B until around noon today, the day of the first community input session. You were asked many times by many people to release the map at least 24 hours ahead of time so we could review it. I attended the redistricting workshop yesterday and walked away not feeling very hopeful, especially since even council members were questioning whether the council was ready for the community input sessions or not. I couldn't help but think that you would have been ready if you had taken the advice of so many people, including the League of Women Voters. You have a huge project at hand to make sure that every vote counts and to make sure that different communities of interest are represented fairly with new district maps. On top of that, I know the staff is working really, really hard, and everybody else has to work as hard as they do. It's going to take community input, so I celebrated the many community input sessions that are scheduled, but they are meaningless if they are not conducted in good faith. Good faith would have required that people have time to access, review, and understand the maps. Good faith would require council members genuinely listening to the community and really taking people's testimony about their communities of interest seriously. In the discussion so far about the map lines, I have heard nothing about how neighborhoods are affected by the new map. I've heard how voting precincts would be affected and how council members are affected, but not one word about how the people would be affected. Good faith would require respecting the Voting Rights Act. I have not heard any discussion on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act or an analysis of whether or not the maps violate Section 2 of the VRA. I would at least expect this in the city where LULAC was founded. Good faith would have meant that all meetings would be required to be held in public and that all communications would be made public. But yesterday, council agreed that it was okay to have individual conferences with council to come up with a new draft map, and from what I can tell, there have been email and other communications between council and between each other. Good faith would have meant that this public process was not taking place in such a short amount of time, especially since the law firm handling redistricting was hired in October 2021. And somehow, in the last few weeks, the deadline for finishing redistricting has changed from April 12th to March 29th. What's the rush? We still have time to turn this around and conduct the redistricting process in good faith. I know y'all are trying, but we have to do better. Give this one-in-a-decade chance the time and respect it deserves. Give the people the democracy we deserve.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Sylvia Campos? No?
Sylvia Campos, 4410 for District 2. Again, you know, we just got the maps. We just had a discussion like, what, 4 hours ago? And you're scheduling the first general meeting now? I mean, I barely got to see them when I left. I went home, you know, ate a little bit, and we are expected to give input tomorrow. You know, I won't be able to attend District 2, but this is so rushed, and there is no reason. There's no reason. We can do it. We can do it correctly. We have the tools. We have Camerons in our pockets, you know, that can help us with virtual. So I would just say, take the time. You know, like I said earlier today, you know, we're dealing with 5 districts right now, when in reality, it really should be 8, because I can tell you right now, Like some of the neighborhoods around Miller High School that were the beginning, one of the first neighborhoods, they are totally being ignored, which I believe is in District 1. They're squeezed out from North Beach, you know, and Cal Allen. It's just, and then they complain that they don't get anything done. Well, they're not really represented. They're not. So anyway, I think, as you can tell by the attendance, you know, the camera's not on, but I want to say it's like 3, 4 people, and that's not good. So we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Caputo, did you want to cover, there was a question about the Voting Rights Act, whether this complies, the proposed plan? Could you address that?
There's nothing in this plan that it violates the Voting Rights Act, in my opinion.
And also regarding the maps, this is the first community input session. There are other sessions as well, and concluding with another general session on March the 8th. So there is still time for people to make comments. We're accepting written comments as well. So if someone is unable to make any of the district meetings or this meeting, we are accepting those written comments, and all comments are being posted on the website. The council's looking at those comments as well. We do take the input seriously. I know this first session was, it was right after the workshop, but we do have other opportunities. It's a total of seven opportunities in addition to written. So, and just remember that the last time we did this in 2010, we had 1 public hearing. So we are, you know, we've gone from 0 to whatever, 100 as far as that goes. And we're happy to do it. I know 4 people turned out today, but I mean, it's the right thing to do to have the sessions. And we're going to continue doing that, continue getting the word out as much as we can. Because it's important. I mean, only you can tell us about the neighborhoods, and that's why we're here. We really want to hear that information too. So I encourage people to participate as well.
We're virtual. What is happening on the website? A way to maneuver. That would be helpful. I asked your law firm, and they said, no, we couldn't use what we pay for in taxes, their application. So to me, that would help. If we could, you know, that would be, I mean, the county did it. I don't understand why y'all can't. So.
Well, we'll take that under consideration and see what we can do about that. Are there any other comments? Oh, Mr. Dowling. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Tim Dowling, 8017 Villafranche. I'll try to keep this brief. The information we now have in Plan B, I think, is a big improvement over what we had yesterday. I very much appreciate the staff's excellent work on doing that. I know you all have been super busy. I appreciate Mr. Caputo's quick action and the sophisticated technology they've got to make that happen. I, like Ms. Campos, haven't had time to evaluate Plan B in the short amount of time available. But the next step is we need to see the data about the precincts, and I'm glad to hear that there's some information here. But for example, if you said, well, I think precinct 15 really shouldn't be here, it should be in this district over here. Okay, if you made that move, there's no information, maybe it's over here now, and if so, that's good. That'll tell you the total population, but it won't tell you the voting age population, or what I understand the Fifth Circuit requires, the citizen voting age population. And it won't tell you anything about the ethnicity. So if you said, okay, we're going to move 15 over here, and okay, that's going to shift things. It's like a tax return. You change one thing on one line, it changes things a whole bunch of places. So we need to have that option. We also need at least 3 proposed maps. That will drive discussion. Think about it this way. If you went to a realtor and said, I want a house that has 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, and 2 garages, and the realtor came back and said, okay, I found one for you. Here's the contract, sign, just fill in the offering price. I think you would fairly say, well, I'd like to know what my other options are. So come up with some other maps. This is very easy to do. Mr. Caputo's firm software is most impressive, and that would be easily for them to do. One idea I wanted to share with you is I live in District 5, but I've been here 40 years, and I've heard some complaints about the folks over at North Beach say, I don't have anything in common with the people in Cal Allen or the Refinery Row folks. So this would be something I would suggest to you. Take North Beach and bring it down over here, join it with number 2, so we have the tourist areas on North Beach, downtown, our heavy tourist area here, join it with 2. Of course, that will shrink the population in 1 a little bit, and then we can make an adjustment over here in 3, and if that overpopulates, and now we want to overpopulate 2 a little bit, if we overpopulated 2 too much, you could just chop off a little bit at the south end. That way you'd have 1 representative, and I've known Mr. Molina a long time, I don't know where he went, but I think he's an outstanding professional, and I'm sure that the people there would be very happy to be represented by 1 person. Right now, if you're in the tourist business, you have 2 different people, and I think it would be helpful if we had 1. Just a few other thoughts. I've lived in Corpus Christi, like I said, for 40 years, and unfortunately it seems like a lot of times we're behind the times. I'd really urge you to do the enlightened thing that Mr. Bickerstaff so eloquently wrote about and have a commission do this work. The county passed its map just a few days before the first day to file vote. I wouldn't recommend you cut it that close, but you do have 5 months of time available. And I've heard the comment, well, we have to finish it by May 1st. I think you've got an outstanding staff. All of my interactions with them, every level, all the time, for many years have been most professional and most competent. And it may put more of a load on you, but I know you guys could handle it if that was the best thing for Corpus Christi. In maps drawn by people with conflicts of interest, which certainly the single-member district members have, will provoke suspicion. And what you want to do is promote trust. If you doubt a conflicts of interest exists, I'd be willing to bet a good amount of dollars against a small number of donuts that every single member council member person who met with Mr. Caputo either yesterday or today said, here's where I live, make sure you don't draw me out of my district. That is a conflict of interest. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Because these maps are going to last 9 years. And one logistical change that I would request that you make, and I was contacted by the staff today, and I said, if a walk-in person comes in, when do they have to sign up? Oh, they have to be here at 5:30. I'm going, the meeting doesn't start till 6. Why'd it have to be at 5:30? So that is something you could easily handle. You could just put a sign-up sheet in the room where you're having your meeting, have them sign up, have the people who signed up in advance online go first if you like, but then pick up the other sign-up sheet. And don't place needless barriers in participation. Let those voices be heard of those people too who might be coming from work and just barely get here in time. And thank you for listening to my remarks on Tuesday on 2/22/22. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dowling, I forgot to address one other thing about the timeline. So the timeline that we have for redistricting, it's a draft time, it's tentative timeline, it's dynamic. It says the 29th, but based on community input, you know, the timeline could be extended. The council could call a special meeting. So we'll keep you informed throughout the process. But it's a draft. It's a plan. Plans can change. So just so you are aware of that, nothing is set in stone as far as finishing at that date. So don't want to create the perception of that we're rushing it. We're just we're setting up a plan to accomplish our goal to get that done. Mr. Caputo, did you have anything else to add, or? Okay. Was there anybody else? Did a comment today? No? Okay, very good. Well, then I will close our session today. Oh, do you want to look at the? No, just saying people wanted to come. Yeah, would you like to look at the maps? Okay, why don't we do that? Okay, we need to print those. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we have some copies right now that we can provide Dr. Scott.
Rebecca, can you announce tomorrow meeting, what time, where it's going to be at?
Yes, sir. Okay.
They're aware.
Well, I was going to close, but so to close, we do have information on our webpage about upcoming meetings, and those meetings will be held. So we have a series of meetings. This was the first one. Our first community input session will be tomorrow. It's Wednesday, February 23rd, 6 to 7 p.m. in District 2. It's in Lindale. The following day, on Thursday, February 24th, there's another session in District 1 at the Owen Hopkins Public Library. We have a session on February 28th in District 5, Veterans Memorial High School. In District 4, March 2nd, that's 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Ethel Irely. Thursday, March the 3rd, in District 3, the Water Utilities Choke Canyon Room. And then finally, on March the 8th, there is a general session. That's a hybrid session in City Council chambers from 6 to 7. So all this information I just read rather quickly is available on the city's website. It's www.cctexas.com/redistricting. That's one way to comment. You can, on that website, you'll also see you can email a comment if you have a written comment. That's available. All the maps are available there. And any resolutions or documents that the council has approved are also available on that website. So just so you have that information too. So I'm going to go ahead and close, but you're welcome to walk around and look at the plans as Mr. Caputo suggested. And we're also here to answer any questions if you have any. So thank you very much for your attention. We appreciate it.